coverage for myself and my two daughters are showing to be $1,500 a month, enough to actually make a mortgage payment. I'm a small business owner and wondering how I'm going to be able to afford this. She goes on to say in that same letter, I thought about just getting insurance for my daughters, but I also remembered the time where I couldn't afford insurance one year, and the doctor and hospital bills were twice as much for cash payers because they bill you the maximum amount possible. I mean, I think we should just be honest about.
Fellow Americans, welcome back to Freedom Forge. If you care about freedom, family, and the future of our country, you're in the right place. Today, we're reacting to something that should outrage every hardworking American out there. A recent congressional hearing that finally lays bare the devastating impact of runaway healthcare costs in this country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for calling this hearing. Thanks to all of the witnesses for being here. I just want to start with numbers that I think are absolutely unbelievable. The cost of health insurance, the increase in health insurance expenditures or health expenditures since 1960 is up. I think we've got a chart maybe over my shoulder here. Since 1960, there has been a 2,109% increase in the cost of health in the United States, healthcare spending. 2,109% increase. Today, Americans spend more on healthcare than on groceries or housing. I mean, this is extraordinary. More than on groceries or housing. 41% of adults in the United States have debt from medical expenses, and I noticed a recent Gallup report found that 31 million Americans borrowed money last year to pay for health care. 31 million Americans. I want to just add to some of the testimony that's been offered here today by reading you something from a constituent of my state. This is a mother in my state of Missouri. She wrote to me recently and said the health insurance coverage for myself and my two daughters are showing to be $1,500 a month, enough to actually make a mortgage payment. I'm a small business owner and wondering how I'm going to be able to afford this. She goes on to say in that same letter, I thought about just getting insurance for my daughters, but I also remembered the time where I couldn't afford insurance one year, and the doctor and hospital bills were twice as much for cash payers because they bill you the maximum amount possible. I mean, I think we should just be honest about what we're facing here. This is a crisis. This is a crisis. And I realize that in Washington, it's treated sometimes as a numbers game. It's treated as a white paper to be discussed. But for people at home, they cannot afford to go and see a doctor. I'm the father of 3 small children. I can't imagine what it would be like to say, I can't afford it. I can't take my kid to the hospital. I mean, we're fairly frequent visitors to the hospital. My family, I've got 2 boys. We're there a fair amount for their various injuries. And thinking about parents in my state or anywhere else saying, you know what, I think my kid's got a broken bone, but I can't go to the hospital. I can't afford it. I can't go to the doctor. I can't afford it. And millions of Americans are saying that. On the subsidies, on the premium tax subsidies, let's just be honest. If we don't do something on this issue, if Congress does not take action on this issue in the next few weeks, this will be a crisis for 24 million Americans and counting. In my state, premiums are already going up by between 24 and 50%, depending on the healthcare plan, depending on the region of the state. I mean, so we are looking at a massive crisis unless Congress acts and acts soon. And my message is to the leadership of this body, to the leaders of the House, the leaders of the Senate, maybe it's time you all locked yourselves in a room and got to a solution here, because it's not going to be a solution in a couple of weeks to say, well, we just couldn't get it done. We couldn't think of anything. Better luck next year. If that's the attitude that ends up being taken in this body, millions of Americans are going to go without health care coverage. And let's be honest, millions of Americans can't afford it now before we hit the cliff. So I think it's time to get serious here about the crisis that we are facing. We have got to take action on the subsidies. As I've said for months now, listen, I'm open to proposals. I'm open to any proposal that will keep the costs down, but we've got to take action. Doing nothing is not a solution. But I have another suggestion to make, and it's a proposal I'd like to introduce. I am introducing today. In addition to taking action on subsidies, why shouldn't we make healthcare tax-free in this country? Why shouldn't we just exempt all healthcare from taxes? We did no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime earlier this year. How about no taxes on healthcare? If you pay premiums, you ought to be able to deduct that from your taxes. If you have out-of-pocket medical expenses, you ought to be able to deduct every dollar off of your taxes. You want to lower the cost of healthcare immediately, do that. No taxes on healthcare for any American. And you set an upper limit so you don't have rich people gaming the system. I get it, that's fine. But let's think about working people in this country who cannot afford health care. What if we said to them today, we're not going to tax your health care costs? Does anybody on the panel have a reaction to that? Let me start with you, Dr. Fagan. We'll just go down the panel. What do you think? No taxes on health care.
I've never, it could work. People are paying a lot for their health care. I think working people look for any advantage that they could get, but I'd have to look at it more in detail.
Ms. Strauss?
Simple answer is yes. Anytime you can get a savings on a tax deduction, absolutely, and especially something around healthcare.
Mr. White, any reaction?
Taxes increase costs, so eliminating them should lower costs. The people here especially affected are the self-employed, and they have to itemize up to 7.5% of their income in order to get the same tax benefit that a big company can get. So what you're talking about is equalizing, leveling the playing field for everyone.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly right.
That makes sense.
That's exactly right. Instead of 7.5%, and you have to itemize, let's move it above the line. Let's say that you can take that deduction, no matter if you're itemizing or not. Very few people itemize, and let's allow them to take the deduction on the first dollar. I mean, that would lower healthcare costs for millions and millions of Americans. I think it's something that we should seriously.
Let me give you the straight facts before I unleash my thoughts. Since 1960, healthcare costs in America have exploded by over 190%. That's right, 2,190%. That's not just inflation. That's a system bleeding us dry. We now spend more on healthcare than we do on food or housing. Just think about that. You can't feed your family or keep a roof over your head without worrying about a medical bill coming in and destroying everything you've worked for. And listen to this, 41% of adults have medical debt. 41%, that's nearly half the country. And 31 million Americans? They had to borrow money last year just to cover healthcare expenses. If that doesn't scream crisis, I don't know what does. You know who's getting hit the hardest? Patriots, small business owners, and working-class Americans. I heard a story from Missouri mom who's paying $1,500 every month just to insure herself and her 2 daughters. That's the same as a mortgage payment. And for what? For the privilege of still worrying she can't actually afford to use her insurance when it matters. And if you're paying cash, forget it. Hospitals and doctors will bill you double just because you don't have insurance. That's highway robbery, plain and simple. Now, here's the kicker. In just a few weeks, if Congress doesn't act, 24 million Americans could lose access to affordable health care because the so-called subsidies are about to run out. In Missouri, premiums are already going up by 24 to 50%. That's not sustainable. That's not freedom. That's not the American dream. But here's where it gets interesting. Finally, someone in Washington is talking common sense. The idea? Eliminate all taxes on healthcare costs. That means every dollar you spend on premiums, doctor visits, prescriptions, you deduct it from your taxes. No more punishing people for taking care of their health. No more bureaucratic hoops. No more treating healthcare as a privilege for the elite. Look, we just went through a fight to make tips and overtime tax-free. Why not healthcare? Why should big business get a better deal than the self-employed? Right now, if you're self-employed, you have to jump through hoops and only get a tax break if you spend more than 7.5% of your income on medical costs. That's insane. The system is rigged against the little guy. And when the panel was asked about this idea, they agreed. It's a no-brainer. Lower taxes mean lower costs. It's real relief that puts money back in your pocket. Not the government's, not big pharma's, not the insurance companies. Now here's my take, and I know my fellow patriots will agree. Healthcare should never be a tool for government control or corporate profit. It should be about freedom, the freedom to choose, the freedom to save, the freedom to take care of your family without fear. Eliminating taxes on healthcare is a step in the right direction. It's not the only answer, but it's a powerful one. It puts the power back where it belongs, in the hands of the people. It rewards hard work and self-reliance. It treats every American equally, whether you're a small business owner, a farmer, a factory worker, or a stay-at-home mom. But we have to demand action. No more excuses from Congress. No more, maybe next year. It's time to lock the doors, roll up the sleeves, and get this done. If they can't figure it out, maybe we need new leadership. Leadership that puts America first. So let's make our voices heard. Let's call our representatives. Let's share this message. And let's stand up for our families and our future. Because in the end, that's what being a patriot is all about. Asterisk fighting for freedom, for fairness, and for the American way. Asterisk. If you agree, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with every patriot you know. God bless you. God bless our troops. And God bless the United States of America.